for this one time. Wait a minute. This is what I want. This is what I want now. Just right when I'm going to do the Irish session. Wow. Well, it's taped, people. I'll have it on. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 8, The Stairs of Sirith Ungol. Believe it or not, on page 703. Now, what we are looking at is an illustration from the chapter. And let's see. Let me see what I got here. Dang. This one is, let me disappear, from the Minas Morgul and the Crossroads. So I'll go ahead and, I want to make this smaller, but it's not going to be doing me any favors. People, no, it's not. Okay, so I'm going to disappear. Okay, so Gollum was tugging at Frodo's cloak and hissing with fear and impatience. "We must go," he said. "We mustn't stay here. Make haste." Reluctantly, Frodo turned his back on the west and followed as his guide led him out into the darkness of the east. They left the ring of trees and crept along the road towards the mountains. This road, too, ran straight for a while, but soon it began to bend away southwards until it came right under the great shoulder of rock that they had seen from the distance. Black and forbidding it loomed above them, darker than the dark sky behind. Crawling under its shadow, the road went on, and rounding it sprang east again and began to climb steeply. Frodo and Sam were plodding along with heavy hearts, no longer able to care greatly about their peril. Frodo's head was bowed. His burden was dragging him down again. As soon as the great crossroads had been passed, the weight of it, almost forgotten Ethelune, had begun to grow once more. Now, feeling the way become steep before his feet, he looked warily up and then saw it, even as Gollum had said that he would, the city of the Ringwraiths. He cowered against the stony bank. A long tilted valley, a deep gulf of shadow, ran back far into the mountains. Upon the further side, some way within the valley's arms, high on a rocky seat upon the black knees of Ethelwald, stood the walls and tower of Minas Morgul. All was dark about it, earth and sky, but it was lit with light, not the imprisoned moonlight welling through the marble walls of Minas Ithil long ago. Tower of the moon, fair and radiant, and the hollow of the hills. Paler indeed than the moon, ailing in some slow eclipse was the light of it now, wavering and blowing like a noisome exhalation of decay, a corpse light, a light that illuminated nothing. And the walls, in tower windows show like countless black holes looking inward to into emptiness. But the topmost course of the tower evolved slowly, first one way and then another, a huge ghostly head leering into the light. For a moment, the three companions stood there, shrinking, staring out with unwilling eyes. Gollum was the first to recover again. He pulled at their cloaks urgently, but he spoke no word. Almost he dragged them forward. Every step was reluctant, and time seemed to slow its pace, so that between the raising of a foot and the setting of it down, minutes of loathing passed. So they came slowly to the white bridge. Here the road, gleaming faintly, passed over the stream in the midst of the valley, and went on, winding deviously up towards the city's gate, a black mouth opening in the outer circle of the northward walls. Wide flats lay on either bank, shadowy meads filled with pale white flowers. Luminous these were too, beautiful and yet horrible of shape, like the diminished forms in an uneasy dream, and they gave forth a faint sickening charnel smell, and an odor of rottenness filled the air. From mead to mead, the bridge sprang. Figures stood there at its head, carven with cunning in forms human and bestial, but all corrupt and loathsome. The water glowing beneath was silent, and it steamed, but the vapor that rose from it, curling and twisting about the bridge, was deadly cold. Frodo felt his senses reeling, and his mind darkening. Then, suddenly, as if some force were at work other than his own will, he began to hurry, tottering forward, his groping hands held out, his head lolling from side to side. Both Sam and Gollum ran after him. Sam caught his master in his arms as he stumbled and almost fell, right on the threshold of the bridge. No, that way. No, not that way, whispered Gollum, but the breath between his teeth seemed to tear his heavy stillness like a whistle, and he cowered to the ground in terror. Hold up, Mr. Frodo, muttered Sam in Frodo's ear. Come back, not that way. Gollum says not, and for once I agree with him. Frodo passed his hand over his brow and rested his eyes away from the city on the hill. The luminous tower fascinated him, and he fought the desire that was on him to run up the gleaming road towards its gate. At last, with an effort, he turned back, and as he did so, he felt the ring resisting him, dragging at the chain about his neck, and his eyes too. As he looked away, seemed for the moment to have been blinded. The darkness before him was impenetrable. Gollum, crawling on the ground like a frightened animal, was already vanishing into the gloom. Sam, supporting and guiding his stumbling master, followed after him as quickly as he could. Not far from the near bank of the stream there was a gap in the stone wall beside the road. Through this they passed, and Sam saw that they were on a narrow path that gleamed faintly at first, as the main road did, until climbing above the meads of deadly flowers, it faded and went dark. Winding its crooked way up into the northern sides of the valley. Along this path the hobbits trudged side by side, unable to see Gollum in front of them, except when he turned back to beckon them on. Then his eyes shone with a green-white light, reflecting the noisome mortal sheen, perhaps, or kindled by some answering mood within. Of that deep, deadly gleam, and of the dark eyeholes Frodo and Sam were always conscious, ever glancing fearfully over their shoulders, and ever dragging their eyes back to find the darkening path. Slowly they labored on, as they rose above the stench and vapors of the poisonous stream. Their breath became easier and their heads clearer, but their limbs were deadly tired, as they walked all night under a burden, or had been swimming long against a heavy tide of water. At last they could go no further without a halt. Frodo stopped and sat down on a stone, and they had now climbed up to the top of a great hump of bare rock. Ahead of them there was a bay and a valley side, and round the head of this the path went on, no more than a wide ledge with a chasm on the right. Across the sheer, southward face of the mountain it crawled upwards until it disappeared into the blackness above. "I must rest a while, Sam," whispered Frodo. "It's heavy on me." Sam went, "Very heavy. I wonder how far I can carry it. Anyway, I must rest before we venture onto that." He pointed to the narrow way ahead. "Shh, shh," hissed Gollum, hurrying back to them. "Shh." His fingers were on his lips and shook his head urgently, tugging at Frodo's sleeve. He pointed towards the path, but Frodo would not move. "Not yet," he said. "Not yet." Weariness and more than weariness oppressed him. It seemed as if a heavy spell was laid on his mind and body. "I must rest," he muttered. At this, Gollum's fear and agitation became so great that he spoke again, hissing behind his hand as if to keep the sound from unseen listeners in the air. "Not here, no. Not rest here. Fools, eyes can see us. When they come to the bridge, they can see us. Come away. Climb, climb, climb." "Come, Mr. Frodo," said Sam. "He's right again. We can't stay here." "All right," said Frodo in a remote voice, as if speaking half asleep. "I will try." Wearily he got to his feet, but it was too late. At that moment the rock quivered and trembled beneath them. The great rumbling noise, louder than ever before, rolled in the ground and echoed in the mountains. And then with searing suddenness there came a great red flash. Far beyond the eastern mountains it leapt into the sky and splashed the lowering clouds with crimson. In that valley of shadow and in cold deathly light it seemed unbearably violent and fierce. Peaks of stone and ridges like notched knives sprang out and staring black against the uprushing flame and gargoyles. Then came a great crack of thunder, and Venus Morgul answered. There was a flare of living lightnings, flicks of blue flame springing up from the tower and from the encircling hills into the sullen clouds. The earth groaned, and out of the city there came a cry, mingled with harsh, high voices as of birds of prey, and the shrill neighing of horses, while with rage and fear. There came a retching screech, shivering, rising swiftly to a piercing pitch, beyond the range of hearing. The hobbits wheeled round towards it and cast themselves down, holding their hands upon their ears. As the terrible cry ended, falling back through a long sickening wail to silence, Frodo slowly raised his head across the narrow valley, now almost on a level with his eyes. The walls of the evil city stood, and its cavernous gates, shaped like an open mouth with gleaming teeth, was gaping wide, and out of the gate an army came. All that host was clad in sable, dark as the night against the wan walls of and the luminous pavement of the road. Frodo could see them, small black figures in rank upon rank, marching swiftly and silently, passing outwards in an endless stream. Before them went a great cavalry of horsemen, moving like ordered shadows, and at their head was one greater than all the rest, a rider, all black, save that on his hooded head he had a helm like a crown that flickered with a perilous light. Now he was drawing near the bridge below, and Frodo's staring eyes followed him, unable to wink or withdraw. Surely there was the Lord of the Nine Riders returned to earth to lead his ghastly host to battle. Here, yes, here, indeed, was the haggard king whose cold hand had smitten down the ring-bearer with his deadly knife. The old wound throbbed with pain, and a great chill spread towards Frodo's heart. Even as these thoughts pierced him with dread and held him bound as with a spell, the rider halted suddenly, right before the entrance of the bridge, and behind him all the host stood still, there with a pause, a dead silence. Maybe it was the ring that called to the Wrath Lord, and for the moment he was troubled. Sensing some other power within his valley. This way and that turned the dark head, helmed and crowned with fear, sweeping the shadows with his unseen eyes. Frodo waited like a bird at the approach of a snake, unable to move, and as he waited, he felt more urgent than ever before the command that he should put on the ring. But great as the pressure was, he felt no inclination now to yield it. He knew that the ring would only betray him, and that he had not, even if he put it on, the power to face the Morgul king. Not yet. There was no longer any answer to that command in his own will. Dismayed by terror though it was, and he felt only the beating upon him of a great power from outside. It took his hand, and as Frodo watched his mind, not willing it, but in suspense, as if he looked on some old story far away, it moved his hand inch by inch towards the chain upon his neck. and then his own will stirred. Slowly, it forced the hand back, and it set it to find another thing, a thing lying hidden near his breast. Cold and hard it seemed as his grip closed on it. The phial of Galadriel, so long treasured and almost forgotten till that hour. As he touched it, for a while all thought of the ring was banished from his mind. He sighed and bent his head. And at that moment the Wrath King turned and spurred his horse and rode across the bridge, and all his dark hosts followed him. Maybe the elven hoods defied his unseen eyes, and the mind of his small enemy, being strengthened, had turned aside his thoughts. But he was in haste. Already the hour had struck, and at his great master's bidding, he must march with war into the west. Soon he had passed, like a shadow into shadow, down the winding road, and behind him still the black ranks crossed the bridge. So great an army had never issued from that vale since the days of Isildar's might. No host so fair and strong in arms, and yet assailed the fords of Anduin, and yet it was but one, and not the greatest of the hosts, that Mordor now sent forth. Frodo stirred, and suddenly his heart went out to Faramir. The storm has burst at last, he thought. This great array of spears and swords is going to Osgiliath. Will Faramir get across in time? He guessed it, but did he know the hour? And who can now hold the forts when the king of the Nine Riders comes? And other armies will come. I am too late. All is lost. I tarried on the way. All is lost. Even if my errand is performed, no one will ever know. There will be no one I can tell. It will be in vain. Overcome with weakness, he wept, and still the host of Morgul crossed the bridge. Then, at a great distance, as if it came out of memories of the Shire, some sunlit early morning, when the day called and the doors were opening, he heard Sam's voice speaking. "Wake up, Mr. Frodo, wake up." Had the voice added, "Your breakfast is ready," he would hardly have been surprised. Certainly Sam was urgent. "Wake up, Mr. Frodo." "They're gone," he said. There was a dull clang. The gates of Minas Morgul had closed. The last rank of spears had vanished down the road. The tower still grinned across the valley, but the light was fading in it. The whole city was falling back into a dark, brooding shade and silence. Yet still it was filled with watchfulness. "Wake up, Mr. Frodo! They're gone, and we better go now. We better go too. There's something still alive in that place. Something with eyes are seeing mine. If you take me, and the longer we stay in one spot, the sooner it will get onto us. Come on, Mr. Frodo." Frodo raised his head and then stood up. Despair had not left him, but the weakness had passed. He even smiled grimly, feeling now as clearly as a moment before he had felt the opposite. That to, what he had to do, if he could, and not whether Faramir or Aragorn. Our Elrond, our Galadriel, our Gandalf, or anyone else knew about it was beside the purpose. He took his staff in one hand and the file in his other. When he saw that the clear light was already welling through his fingers, he thrust it into his bosom and held it against his heart. And then, turning from the city of Mordor, now no more than a gray glimmer across a dark gulf, he prepared to take the upward road. Gollum, it seemed, had crawled off along the ledge into the darkness beyond. When the gates of Minas Morgul opened, leaving the hobbits where they lay, he now came creeping back, his teeth chattering and his fingers snapping. "Foolish! Silly!" he hissed. "Make haste! They mustn't think danger has passed. It hasn't. Make haste!" They did not answer, but they followed him on to the climbing ledge. It was little to the liking of either of them, not even facing so many other perils, but it did not last long. Soon the path reached a round angle where the mountainside swelled out again, and there it suddenly entered a narrow opening in the rock. They had come to the first stair that Gollum had spoken of. The darkness was almost complete, and they could see nothing much beyond their hands stretched, but Gollum's eyes shone pale. Several feet above, as he turned back towards them. "Careful," he whispered. "Steps, lots of steps. Must be careful." Care was certainly needed. Frodo and Sam at first felt easier, having now a wall on either side. But the stairway was almost as steep as a ladder, and as they climbed up and up, they became more and more aware of the long black wall behind them, and the steps were narrow, spaced unevenly, and often treacherous. They were worn and smooth at the edges, and some were broken, and some cracked as foot was set upon them. The hobbits struggled on until at last they were clinging with desperate fingers to the steps ahead and forcing their aching knees to bend and straighten. And ever as the stair cut its way deeper into the sheer mountain, the rocky walls was higher and higher above their heads. At length, just as they felt that they could endure no more, they saw Gollum's eyes peering down at them again. "We're up," he whispered. "First stairs past. Clever hobbits to climb so high. Very clever hobbits. Just a few more little steps, and that's all. Yes." Dizzy and very tired Sam and Frodo following him, crawled up the last step and sat down, rubbing their legs and knees. They were in a deep, dark passage that seemed still to go up before them, though at a gentler slope and without steps. Gollum did not let them rest long. "There's another stair still," he said. "Much longer stair. Rest when we get to the top of the next stair." "Not yet." Sam groaned. "Longer, did you say?" he said. Yes, longer," said Gollum, "but not so difficult. Hobbits have climbed the straight stair. Next comes the winding stair." "And what after that?" said Sam. "We shall see," said Gollum softly. "Oh, yes, we shall see." "I thought you said there was a tunnel," said Sam. "Isn't there a tunnel or something to go through?" "Oh, yes, there's a tunnel," said Gollum, "but hobbits can rest before they try that. If they get through that, they'll be nearly at the top. Very nearly, if they get through." "Oh, yes." Frodo shivered. The climb had made him sweat, but now he felt cold and clammy, and there was a chill drawn in the dark passage, blowing down from the invisible heights above. He got up and shook himself. "Well, let's go on," he said. This was no place to sit in. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop right here. We will finish next time. And there's a lot to digest, and he is leading them to where? There's a lot more to read, too. It's going to be very interesting. We have a few more pages left to this chapter until we get to the next chapter, chapter 9, Shaleb's Lair. And I will go ahead and I'm going to post the image that they have in the plan of Shaleb's Lair from this chapter. Okay, so you may have some kind of idea that you may be looking at towards the end of the chapter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let everyone go. And I believe this is already posted up yesterday. Please, yeah. It's been recently posted up. This is from each chapter as we go. Now, hopefully this will help you a little bit, but it's a little bigger, posted online. So please be mindful that this is, I can only work with what I could on what is called, when there's upload, it seems to even though I try to make it, only I can be made smaller. Sorry, people. Or I could disappear. But anyway, I'd rather disappear so everyone can enjoy the maps and everything else is being illustrated up there. And as to help everyone, hobbits, elves, or dwarves, or whoever you think you are, an orc, may help you lead the way to where everyone is going. Okay, everyone, I am going to close it for tonight. Okay, safe travels fellow Tolkiens, and stay safe. Laters.